Hey there. Do you believe in ghosts or the paranormal? Because I do. So I wanted to tell you about some of my experiences that I've had in my life with ghosts and the paranormal. So, when I was very little, I don't even know what age I was. I had what, of course, my parents said was an imaginary friend. They didn't believe that she really existed, but I believed that she really existed. Her name was Kathy Bennett, and she was a very good friend of mine, but I was the only one that could see her or hear her. But she was very real to me. She was someone that I could talk to and play with and tell all my secrets to. And I still remember her to this day. I'm not really sure if she was the only one I had seen at that time, and I can't remember when my very first experience was. But I do remember having many experiences when I was little. And I wasn't the only one. My sister experienced things too. So at least we had each other to talk to about it. Ooh. So, when my sister and I were really young, we used to hear things in the house all the time. It would be late at night, and we could hear someone walking down the hall. We had hardwood floors in our hallway. I think we had hardwood floors throughout the house for part of the time. And we used to hear it all the time. I mean, it was clearly someone walking down the hall. And when we would tell our parents about it, of course, they would just say, oh, it's just, the boards creaking in the floor, house settling, that type of thing. No, it was not. These were very clear footsteps that we could hear going down the hall. And we would go look, and of course there was no one there. But it was scary. I mean, we were scared. Being, young kids, it was very frightening for us. But we used to hear things all the time. We would hear the footsteps. We would hear other noises in the house that at times we thought, either it was our parents that was making the noise or somebody was breaking into the house. And when we would go look, we'd see that, our parents were asleep and there was nobody there. And, of course, she and I talked about these things all the time. But nobody believed us. We believed each other because we would be together sometimes when these things happened. And then through the years, we had multiple experiences throughout our life. And there was one time when my sister was away at college, and I went to go visit her, and she and a good friend of hers, we all three went out, and her friend was a guy. And we all went out to this park because she was going to the North Carolina School of the Arts. And we went to this park called Washington Park. This was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And we were going through the park, just having a nice day in the park. And all three of us stopped dead in our tracks. Because we were going like through this kind of field area, but it was surrounded by trees and everything. And there was this little area that was kind of at the bottom of a hill, and then up on the hill was a house, a really old house. And at the bottom of this hill were these three dark shapes, and they were just like these dark, it's hard to even describe what they look like. They were just these dark shapes that were just they almost looked solid, like there was no, like, if light reflects off of something, you can kind of see, shadows on the clothing and stuff like that. This didn't have any of that. And this was during the day. And what was interesting about the shapes was that it looked like three shapes of people. One was taller, and there was kind of a medium-sized shape next to it, and then a smaller one, and they kind of looked like they were crouching. Very, very bizarre. And they weren't moving. There was just, they were just there, but they weren't there. It was, I don't know how to to describe it really or explain it. And even my sister to this day does not know how. But the three of us, when we saw these things, we all three were just terrified. And we started running as fast as we could to get out of there. I don't know what it was. They didn't know what it was. Years later, the guy, her friend, he actually did some research and found out that, I don't know when it was, but it was way back in the days of horse and buggy, that there had been a horse and buggy accident at the foot of that hill. And a family had died in that accident. It was a man, a woman, and a child. Was it them that we saw? I have no idea. But I tend to believe that it was, because how else do you explain that, to see these three shapes? And if I recall, because this has been many, many years ago, it seems like when he did the research that it was the same time of year that the accident had happened, that we were there. I don't know if it was the exact same date or anything like that, but apparently this family had died all these years ago, and I think that's what we saw. So, and other things that have happened through the years. I can remember when I was in high school. So there was one morning that I was getting up to get ready for school. And this was back in the 80s. So I used to use a curling iron a lot on my hair. But I would always unplug the curling iron and wrap the cord around it. So this morning I got up, I was getting ready to start getting ready. And I was getting ready to go pick up the curling iron and unwrap the cord to plug it in. And I accidentally stepped on the curling iron and burned my foot. The cord was wrapped around it and it was not plugged in. And I had just gotten up, so it had not been plugged in since the day before. But I burned my foot on that curling iron. I mean, I felt the burn when it happened. And then it went away shortly after that. And the curling iron was not hot once I picked it up. I mean, you know, it just was normal. But I burned my foot on that curling iron. And I don't know why. I don't know what made that happen, but it happened. And I know also, I mean, this is backtracking, because I just happen to remember this too, which reminded me, because I was thinking about the three shapes. There was a time when I was really, really young, and I don't know exactly how young I was, but I mean, I was probably like maybe 4 or 5 years old. And my mom was out of town, and my dad was out of town. He was a traveling salesman. She was away for something else. And the lady across the street was babysitting us. Well, I had become ill. I was sick, and I was running a fever. And so a lot of people may say, well, you were just running a fever, you were delirious, whatever. But I still remember this very clearly to this day. I remember waking up, and when I looked up, standing at the foot of my bed were 3 dark figures standing there. I was terrified, out of my mind. I remember screaming, and the lady that was babysitting, she came, rushing in there to see what the problem was. And there wasn't anybody there. But I saw them. And I believe that it was some kind of ghost or something. It was not my imagination. It wasn't me being delirious. I don't believe. Because I've had so many other experiences. And, have had, quite a few experiences when I was a kid. Like my friend Kathy Bennett. Anyway, to move forward. I probably won't even remember all of the experiences I've had because it's been a lot. But there was a time, I think it was around 2005, maybe. I think it was around 2005. Ooh, and I'm leaving out stuff that happened out in California. There were things out in California that happened. Okay, let me backtrack just a minute. My sister and I moved to California back in 1994. And we were living in this really crappy apartment. We were sharing like this little studio apartment in Hollywood, right off Hollywood Boulevard. And we used to have experiences in this apartment. These apartments were really old. They'd been around for a long, long time. I don't know when they were built. But things would be moved around. Like in the bathroom, in the shower. I always put things in a certain place in the shower. And I would go in there and they'd be moved. And it wasn't my sister. She said, no, I've not moved it. And she would have similar experiences. She'd ask me, did you move this or whatever? And I would be like, no. So I have no idea. But we started doing EVP sessions back, God, was this before we left? Yeah, I guess this was before we left Colorado to go to California. I'm jumping around here, but it's like I'm remembering things, just not the right order. We went to go see Interview with the Vampire when it was in the movie theater. And we really loved the movie. We just went crazy over Interview with the Vampire. So we took in a little recorder so that we could record the movie, because we wanted to listen to it. It's like we couldn't watch it, but we wanted to record, have a recording of the movie so we could listen to it and stuff, because we just went crazy over it. So we were like driving around one day, and she was playing the tapes because it was, a cassette tape. She was playing the tapes in the car radio or car tape deck. And we're like listening to the lines of the movie and stuff, and then all of a sudden we hear this voice of this man. And at first, it was like this laugh, this really creepy kind of a laugh. And literally, we're like driving down the street, and we both heard it at the same time. And we looked at each other, and we were like, "Did you hear that? What the hell was that?" Because when we went to the theater that day that we recorded, obviously you're not allowed to do that. So when we went in there, we went on a day and at a time of day when there was like almost no one at that movie. The theater was practically empty. I think there was like 4 people in the entire theater. And we purposely sat down near the front, not on the front row, but like about 4 or 5 rows back, something like that. And there was no one around us. We sat where there was absolutely no one around us anywhere. But this voice sounded like it was literally right in the microphone. We were so freaked out when we heard that. And so we were like listening to it over and over again. And then we kept listening. And throughout the movie, there were times when that same voice would come in and either say something or laugh at certain things that were happening on the screen. It was like bizarre. But what was really bizarre was when we recorded it that day, we had noticed that as we were leaving the theater, right behind us, in the row of seats behind us, there was a chair, one of the seats, with the seat down. And it was just down. And we thought that was kind of odd because it wasn't down when we sat down, because we were looking around, trying to decide where we wanted to sit when we went in that day. And there wasn't a seat down, but it was down when we were like leaving. And we went over there and we checked the seat. We put the seat back up. And this was before we even knew there was anything on the recording. I believe that was the same time, because we went back again and we did another recording another time after that to see if we could find it. Anyway, believe me, there's been so many freaking times that things like this have happened that it's hard to really keep up. But anyway, we checked that seat and it would not stay down. That seat was like, they pop up. When you go in, the seat's up and you push it down and then you sit in it. And then when you get up, the seat pops back up again. And this seat would not stay down. So it wasn't like it was broken. It wouldn't stay down. I'll have to ask my sister about this, because now I'm not sure if it was that time or the next time that we went, because we were so freaked out, because there were so many times on that recording that we heard that voice. And so after that happened, we went back again another day. Same kind of situation. There was like nobody there. And we recorded it again because we thought, okay, let's see if we get this voice again. And you could tell, like, if somebody was like in the back of the thing or whatever, if they laughed at something in the movie or, went like that, you could tell that it was far away. And you could tell that it was somebody that was in the theater. This wasn't like that. This was just very different. It was very different. So, anyway, so we had those experiences. That was really creepy. I don't know if she still has those tapes. She kept those recordings for years. And there was one time, we lived in Colorado twice. We moved away to California. I moved back to North Carolina, and then I moved back to Colorado again. And in Colorado the second time, I was living in an apartment. I was about to move out. I think I was planning on moving like in a few days. It was like my last few days in the apartment. And I had had some odd experiences in there. I mean, there was like this one time when I was fixing some food or something or other, or we had pizza. It was my sister and a couple other girls that were over, that was part of this paranormal group that we started. Anyway, that was a whole nother story, but and literally I was like standing there in the kitchen holding a plate with a piece of pizza on it, and it was as if somebody came up from under me and went bang, and the pizza just went like that. We were all standing there, we all saw it, all of us were freaked out because, I mean, I wasn't doing that. I mean, it literally was like somebody hit me from underneath my hand and my pizza went flying. But anyway, back to what I was saying about, I was here in the apartment by myself a few nights before I was supposed to leave. And I decided to do a recording. I just wanted to do a little recording session, just say, there's somebody here, I'd like to talk to you because I'm going to be leaving, and, because I've been having odd things happening in there. And, so I started doing this recording, and it was late at night. I was there by myself. And when I played the recording back, loud and clear, in what they would consider to be a Class A EVP, and somewhere I have it. I have got the recording. I kept it because I don't think I've ever gotten anything as clear as this. There was a man's voice. This man's voice sounded very sad. And he said, "Please help me." I was so freaked out because it was so loud and clear. I played it for my sister over the phone. I called my sister on the phone, and I'm like, "Oh my God, listen to this." And I played it for her over the phone, and she immediately knew what the guy said, and I hadn't told her. And the next day, I went over to see my mom. She'd moved out to Colorado as well. Anyway, so we were all in Colorado at this time. I went to go see my mom. And I said, "I want to play something for you, and I want you to tell me what you hear." So I didn't tell her what it was or anything. And as soon as I played the recording, she said, "That sounded like someone saying, 'Please help me.'" That's what it was. There was someone saying, "Please help me." I'm going to have to look for that recording because I know I saved it. Because that was the best one I ever got. I've gotten other recordings where there's voices and stuff, but a lot of times it's not very clear. You can't really tell. Some things you can tell what they're saying, but it wasn't that clear. But, yeah, I've had a lot of experiences, and I think maybe a lot has to do with the fact that I'm open to it. You know, I mean, even when I was a kid, you know, children are more susceptible to that because I think it's because they're being so young, they don't have all the things in society that, you know, distract you and keep you from being aware. You know, like, well, not these days. I don't know. These days there's, you know, social media and cell phones. Every child has a cell phone and all that stuff. Maybe they're not as aware, but back then, kids are very aware. I think they're closer to the spirit world, you know? I don't know. Just my theory on that, but I never let go of it because I was always experiencing things. And it didn't matter that, you know, people didn't believe me because I believed it. You know, I just thought, I know what I experienced. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And my sister was the same way and still is. It's interesting, you know, it's an interesting thing. It's bizarre, it's strange, it's the unknown. And, you know, it's one of those things that's difficult to try to prove. But, you know, for people that have experienced stuff, you know, if you've experienced something, you know what it's like, and it's like you can't unexperience it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I found this the other day. I was out looking at one of the little thrift shops that I call it up the street, and I saw this and I was like, oh, slime. That I've probably destroyed. It's got, and you probably can't see it, but it's got glitter. Maybe you can see it a little bit. It's got like glitter and stuff in it. It was pretty, so I thought that'd be fun. I'm gonna get another piece of gum. This was supposed to be more gum chewing than I've been doing, but I've been talking a lot, so grab a piece. But, so yeah, I just had a lot of experiences. I can't say that I've had so many here, though, in Thailand. It seems like, you know, I mean, there's been a few times I've kind of wondered, you know, like I hear something or things would happen and I'd just be like, But here, because they're Buddhists, they have, this doesn't want to open. Let's try a different piece. Here, because they're Buddhists, they have what they call spirit houses. And almost all Thai families have these spirit houses outside in their yard. And they're really nice. If you've never seen one, you should Google it or something and look it up. Look up these spirit houses. They're really cool. And they put things in these spirit houses. They put like food and drink and burn incense and do all this special stuff. They put flowers and things like that. And for them, these spirit houses are supposed to, like, collect spirits because they do believe in reincarnation, which obviously I do too. But these spirit houses collect like the spirits, like when people pass on. It's supposed to keep like evil spirits out of your house, and I could be explaining this totally wrong. This was kind of how it was explained to me. It's supposed to keep negative spirits and, spirits out of your home because this gives them a home. Now, if there's any spirits around, this is where they can go instead of coming into your home. So who knows? Maybe that's why I've not really experienced much here. Because I used to experience things all the time in the States. But, ooh. When this stuff is just like oozing everywhere. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I've made a mess. This slime. It's just like going all over the place. It's dripping on the floor too. I don't think this is the best slime in the world. It's pretty though. But anyway, I just thought it'd be fun to talk about that kind of stuff because I've had I've had some really bizarre experiences, some really creepy experiences. And I'm curious to know if you have too. I'd love to hear if you have. It'd be great if you could, leave it in the comment section. Tell me about any experiences you may have had. It'd be fun to hear other people's stories, what they've experienced. Well, I think that's all I'll talk about right now. I can't think of any other, major experiences or anything. I probably will once I stop doing this video. I'll probably be like, why didn't you talk about this one or that one? But, yeah, I think people that are open to it are going to experience things. I know there's a lot of, people out there that don't believe, and that's fine. There's a lot of people that, have never experienced anything themselves, so they just think, yeah, it's, a bunch of bull. But I personally believe in it. Just because, I have good reason to, I feel like. So let me know. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your ghost stories. What's happened with you and your ghostly experiences, your encounters with the paranormal. And thank you very much for watching. And I hope to see you soon.